Well, hello and welcome to Conversations with Dr. Harriet and our special guest, Amy Allgood. How are you?
I'm doing great, Harriet. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
So glad you are here. I have to tell everybody, I met you we were at a luncheon and it was a benefit luncheon. And this has been a few years ago. And we so happened to be sitting at the same table
Yeah.
and we just clicked out of nowhere. We clicked, we kept in touch, and you were having a conference, and you invited me to the conference, and I came, and we just have become really good friends. And I'm so excited that God does the work. He
Yeah,
puts people
exactly.
together, and we just have to be open, to just receive when God brings people into our lives, and just to know that he does that on purpose. I mean, out of all those people at the place, we were sitting at the same table, and I just thank God for that, and thank God for bringing you into my life. It has been very rich ever since, and so I'm looking forward to our conversation with the world and showing everybody all the good stuff that's coming out of our meeting.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yes,
I'm
yes.
excited to be here.
So for the few people who may not know, I'm actually going to make myself a little taller in a second, but so we can kind of be on the same height. But for those few people who may not know you, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I am Amy Allgood, as Harriet said. And again, thank you. I love that you just said how God brings people together. There's never any accident with that. And I have a passion to help pull out the champion in women. So I do that a couple different ways. I'm a national sales trainer with Mary Kay Inc. I'm also a mentor and success coach where I work in groups or one-on-one with women, really helping them to design their purpose and their priorities, because sometimes those things can be a hard thing to kind of figure out and honor both of those. So I'm really big on just helping, again, women discover their gifts and their strengths. I work a lot with strength finders for those of you who are familiar with that. So once we can identify a woman's strength, we can really pull out and use that, because that's her gift to the world, but not by sacrificing her priorities of her family and her faith. So that's really the big thing that we do. And then, of course, my Refresh ministry, that we just really want to refresh women's souls. And a big part of that is the women's retreat that you were there last year. And I love that. And I also have 3 children that keep me very busy, and a husband. We just moved about a year and a half ago, left South Florida, moved up to the Panhandle to be, our dream was always to live on the water. And so kind of got our dream home. And so now we have 3 kids that keep us busy too, with all the sports. I think they're each in about 2 or 3 sports. So we have a 6-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 10-year-old. So that's a little about me.
That's so wonderful. And we both have a love for college football.
Yes, it's
We're both
coming. We're right around the corner.
exactly. We're both big fans of sports. And I shared with Amy that, my son who played college ball, my girls played sports all, through high school. And then my son played all the way through college. And now he's a filmmaker, so he's not playing sports anymore. And so Amy's so sweet that she sends me clips of her son, playing baseball. And I just love it because I miss that so much. And
Mhm.
so I always tell the moms, enjoy it. It's a lot of work right now because when you're doing so many things, but it's so important for them to have that support of their moms. They know their dads are usually there, but that mom being there is always so special. And they're going to remember that even when they get older, that my mom was there.
I
So
know it
they
actually
enjoy
popped up
it.
today, 1 year ago today, his first football practice. I remember him come running out with his pads on, and I can't believe it's been a year. So it's been really fun.
Yeah, time flies. It really does. So we always tell people to enjoy. So, I want to dive right into our topic for today is living with intention, specifically goals. But before I do so, there's a few things I just want to touch on really quick. And I know you're a speaker, you're a motivator, mentor for women. Tell us about Refresh. Tell us a
Mhm.
little bit about that organization and how that came about and the annual conference that you have.
Yeah. So Refresh really came out a burden on my heart, just as I was working with women in different capacities. They just felt so stressed and overworked, and just lacking really clarity and really the time to kind of go just sit with themselves to really ask the necessary questions in order to make the changes that they wanted. It seemed like they kept wanting to make changes, but they just, in that day-to-day routine and the day-to-day busyness, they just couldn't go deeper to really get the answers that they needed to make change. So it really just was a God thing that was put on my heart to create a space so women could go and go deeper in a short amount of time. If you know anything about me, I don't really love surface. I love to go deep as quickly as possible. And so we create a 3-day event in a beautiful resort on the beach. I think when you're around nature, you can really tap into your spiritual side a lot more. So, we just go deeper at this retreat, and we leave a lot of the lies, a lot of the stronghold things that may be holding us back from being who God called us to be. And you're just around like-minded, like-hearted women who also are wanting and craving the same thing. And so that environment is really powerful, when you can put those type of women all together, seeking the same thing. So it's really about them growing personally and growing spiritually, and just reassessing their life kind of from the inside out.
That's true. And you also have a Facebook page that they can join your Facebook page as well, correct?
Yes. So we have an exclusive Facebook group called Refresh Women's Group. And so on there, and again, it just kind of is an extension of that retreat. So I'll go on there and share some inspiration or some tips, and everybody can, you're on there. And then also I'm excited. We're actually getting ready to start again in September, our Refresh Live. So once a week, we have a Refresh Women's Retreat page on Facebook. And so I'll go live and I pick a different topic every month and just kind of go deeper. So yeah, I'm really excited about that starting back up in September.
That sounds so good. And we'll be letting you know about next year's Refresh Conference as soon as the date comes out. And I could truly say, the first one that I went to was this past year, and I had no idea what to expect. And so I got there, but I left so refreshed. It was really true. I was refreshed and relaxed, and just even, all the activities were just so intentional on making sure that you were refreshed and relaxed. A lot of times when you go to conferences, you do get a lot out of them, but you may not leave refreshed. And so it truly lived up to the name.
Yay.
And so I'm looking forward
yeah,
to
and I'm glad you said that, because it's not so much a conference, right? Like a conference, you get a lot, but then you're kind of drained. You kind of need a vacation from the conference.
right.
This is to really renew your mind, refresh your soul, so that you are leaving there, right? Feeling refreshed. So we do a good balance of pouring in, but also giving you reflective time, but also time with other women. So I think there's a good balance of that.
Absolutely.
And the date, it's going to be at the end of April. So the save the date will also be coming out in September.
Okay, that sounds good. And I'm making sure to let all my friends know because they need to be there. Okay, and then really quick, just wanted to, we're going to be talking about today living with intention, especially goals. And to start off, I want to talk, you're a national sales director for Mary Kay. And she drives, you guys, she drives the pink Escalade, not just the pink car, but she has the pink Escalade, which I love it. I love it. So how did setting goals, why was that so important, in becoming up to national sales director?
Yeah. Well, I think sometimes we don't really know why we set goals. So I think that's, a great question. I think really to live a life of intention in any area of your life, you really have to define what it is that you want. So, when I came in to Mary Kay, just to make extra money, but pretty early on, I saw the top position of national sales director. And I think the most important thing is anytime you set a goal, you have to know why you want that goal. The why has to come before the what. And so many times, if we find ourselves setting a goal and not reaching it and setting it over and starting over and starting over, I would say to look at why you want that goal, because that may be what's missing. And so I just saw the platform of national sales director and how much that would give me an impact, a platform to impact women's lives. So I knew that that's why I wanted that. So I think that was pivotal in my first step of knowing why I wanted this goal. And then really the second thing was I in my early 20s, I don't know, God gave me the wisdom to go, well, there's other women who have done it, so you can do it. Why don't you just go find out what they did? And so I would say I was a very good student. So I would say to anybody who has a goal, find somebody that's done what you want to do and go copy it, right? I mean, as long as you copy the right cat,
That's
it's
right.
going to work.
Absolutely.
So,
Why reinvent the wheel, right?
right,
They're
right.
already doing. What do you do every day?
Yeah.
And follow that. That is so good. I love
Mm-hmm.
that. So I know that you set goals for your personal life, your family life, as well as your business. Talk about that and how what do you do daily?
So, I am really big on journaling. So, one of the things that I do daily is I review some things in here. I don't review all of the goals, but one of the things I think that has been really pivotal to me when it comes to goal setting is every year I go and have an appointment with myself. And I do this in January. Usually I do it at the end of December because so many times, people wait till January to do it. But I'll go and it's really fun. I'll just go sit with myself, have and it's kind of an all day thing, coffee, and I'll have lunch, and it's just an appointment with me. And the first thing I do is I write out what are my top 3 to 4 priorities for this next year. And so many times, you know, as women who are high achievers, I know you can relate to this, Harriet. We want to have 20 goals for the year. We want to set so much, right? We're so optimistic. Oh, it's a new year. I can accomplish so much. But then the reality is by February 14th on Valentine's Day, they say 88% of people have already given up on their goals. And usually it's because they're just setting too big. They don't break it down. So I think that's the big difference that I really start and look at the priorities, put it into goals, and then put those into action steps, and then put that onto a schedule all the way down to what am I going to be doing on a day to day. So now it actually probably takes me 2 or 3 appointments with myself as my life is getting more complex with different a business, a ministry, a family, a home, moving, all of those things. So really what I do is I write those priorities. And so again, you can't really have more than 4. That's the key. You cannot 3 or 4. And as a high achiever, I have 4. Okay. But that's it. You really got to hone in. And then after I come up with those 4, I break it down. So then I'm going to go, okay, with this priority, what are my goals? So I think, again, it's not starting with goals, it's starting with your priority. And then what are the goals around that priority? So again, one of my priorities would be to be present as a wife and a mom, not just be a mom, right? But I want to be present with them. So what is that going to look like? What are the goals around that? And then taking that to my schedule. So for example, with my family, one of those is to have one-on-one time with each one of my children. So then I look at my schedule and go, okay, when am I going to do that? Because again, we all have good intentions, but how do you go from the good intentions to execution to action? And so I take that goal and I look at my schedule and go, okay, where's a window that I can do that? On the first Friday of the month, I'm going to take this kid. The second Friday, the third Friday, and kind of doing it like that. And then taking a schedule. And once I have it all, I kind of do a schedule where, I kind of color code. So I have different colors for each area of my life. And that just helps me stay balanced so I can look. Because there's been seasons in my life where I was like, oh my gosh, it's like 80% work. That's not okay. Let me kind of, bring it back to that. But one of the things that I review that I think makes me accountable to my goals is and helps me is I just have in the front my priorities and my goals and just kind of written out a word of the year, a verse of the year. I have my vision in here and I have my affirmations. So every morning to kind of answer your daily question is I definitely read my affirmations every single morning when I in my quiet time. So that kind of reinstills those important things in my life. And then what I'll try to do is I'll go through one goal each day in my journal, just a little bit, right? So, for example, my first priority this year is to deepen my relationship with the Lord, to seek His face, and to know Him better by being still in His presence. So, goal number 1 to support that priority was my quiet time at 5 a.m. And so then I just have it. I worship, gratitude. I'm going to read and study, and then I put like what areas I want to study in. all the way to my journal, affirmations, and visualization. So it does get, pretty detailed in there. So it just really helps to kind of get it all out at the beginning of the year. And then I'm just having to go back and remind myself of what those goals are.
That is so good. And then I know even being married, you said spending time with the kids, but I know you also schedule your date nights as well. Yeah, with
Yeah.
your husband. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you have small kids, I mean, it's hard to get a conversation in when you're
Right.
around them. So, and then one of the things, you know, I think to just constantly keep growing yourself. So, in the areas that we do set goals, also having mentorship. And so I do have someone who I, reach out to about marriage advice, about my spiritual journey. And one of the things that one of the mentors told me 2 or 3 years ago that's really, we've enhanced our date night, if you will, but they said, try not to talk about kids or work. And let me tell you, Dr.
So
Harriet,
hard.
that is hard.
It is so
You know,
hard.
I mean, and so that really challenged us and took our marriage to the next level. So I think always looking at, what are those things and not just get in a rut like, okay, I love going out to eat, but just doing that every time. So it's like, okay, you plan the date this time, I'll plan it the next time. And before we moved, we had a set babysitter every Friday night. And then when we moved, we found, wow, it was a little bit more challenging to figure that out. So, but it's worth it. I would tell anybody, it's so worth it to figure it out, even when it's hard.
That's so good. I love that. And even I know people who really work at that list, that daily to-do list, and follow that list religiously. I think that that's my issue, that I'll have my list, but then I'm kind of jumping around that list. On this project, and then I'll leave that and go to the next project. And, you
Mhm.
know, but my most successful friends are the ones that stick to that schedule. I mean, they schedule
Mhm.
exercise, they schedule their lunch, they schedule
Mhm.
everything. And if it's not on the schedule, they don't adjust that schedule for
Mhm.
that day. And that really makes sense when you're trying to be
Yeah.
focused.
Yeah. And if I could just say something, about the schedule is, um, either making it the night before or first thing in the morning. But one of the things I think that helps a lot with sticking to a schedule is prioritizing. So what I do is I make my list and then I actually prioritize. So we call it six most important list, is what I call it. And sometimes, it's more than that or less than that, depending on, how much, like if you're working a business on the side, a lot of people have like a side business or entrepreneur, but they're maybe still working a full-time job, or maybe they're, at home with, 4 kids or whatever. So it's really important to look at how can I prioritize what I have to get done. And I think that's the hard part for people because we live in such a world of distraction. I could talk about that all day long. I think that is the number one thing that robs people in
Number
today's
one.
world. Number one of reaching their goals. And it is. And so we get off track. And so I really challenge, I'm doing a huddle with a group of leaders right now. And that was one of the things that we actually talked about yesterday is we identified what that first thing was. And we said, you hone that in just like it is the most important appointment of your life. And you create boundaries. I said, if you could just get that one thing done first that is a priority in your business, and you just got to go, okay, I can't get on Facebook until this is done. I can't go put the load of laundry in. I can't go put some, dinner on. Like, no, I have got to focus, because the opposite of distraction, right, is focus. So how can we focus more? I think we can focus more when we prioritize better. So looking at that list, because what happens is naturally as a human, we want to run from pain, right? And so we want to do the things that make us feel comfortable. But the things on our list that make us feel comfortable are not going to be the things to grow our business or to better our family. So it's looking at this and going, what is the most important thing that needs to get done? And when you do that hard thing first, oh man, you're so empowered. Like you're on fire the rest of the day because you did the hard thing, and it boosts your confidence. It's like the same reason I teach my kids, make up your bed. They're like, why, mom? I said, because it's going to teach you to be a disciplined person. And because you're going to wake up. And so your brain is going to tell you, I'm a disciplined person. It's not about making the bed or not. It's teaching that. So when you can get that first thing done on that priority list, that's the most important thing, you're re-emphasizing, I am enough. I got this. I do have what it takes. So it's really a mental game, by mastering that list. But also I would say, on the other hand, is to give yourself grace. There are days I am not perfect, that everything goes boom, boom, boom. In fact, it rarely ever does. It rarely ever does. However, if I have 6 things and at least I've gotten to 2, if I prioritize right, at least they're the most important two. They're the most important two. So I'll, just have grace. We have to have grace on ourselves, because we are
Right.
going to have those days. And I would just also say that I'm a huge believer in accountability. A huge believer. Most of what I do, where I feel like I'm actually really, I can say, helping and contributing a woman to becoming better in her business or better in her life, is ultimately I'm like a master encourager and an accountability partner, like that. So I can take someone's purpose, her goals, her mission, and I can help her like streamline that into that. And so it's so crazy to me that really how many people resist accountability. But in all my 17 years of mentoring women, I have seen that that is the number one thing that really allows someone to get there. And I remember, after I had the third baby, kind of funny story. I had, talked about, as a lot of women do, I got to lose my weight. I got to lose my weight. And I remember going to Mexico with some friends to celebrate their wedding vow renewal. And I remember, her husband picked us up, my husband and I, at the airport, and everything, they all rode around in these golf carts, right? So he picks us up, and my friend Crystal is like in the water, right? And so you know how like in a movie where it's like it starts going like slow-mo. And I just remember, as we're driving over this dock across the water to kind of get to Crystal, where Ryan was taking us, and I could see her getting closer and closer and closer, and I could see her hot little body in this bikini. All right. And after 4 or 5 days of staring at her hot little body, and we had our sons like the same time, like a week apart, by the last day, I was like, I don't even want to eat a chimichanga. Okay. I don't want to eat anything. Just give me some, no tortilla. And so I remember saying to her and another friend that was there, you know what? I am going to be accountable to you guys. And every day for 6 weeks, I texted them what I ate.
Wow.
And after 3 years of trying to lose weight, I finally lost the 25 pounds I had been trying to lose. And as someone who teaches accountability and is super disciplined in every area of her life, that was an area for me I was really struggling. And until I wanted it bad enough, that's what it comes down to, right? A lot of times it's desire for our goals, but it's the desire coupled with accountability with somebody who's going to care enough, and so and that made such a difference. So I just always tell people, if you've been trying to reach a goal and you haven't been able to do it on your own, get some accountability. Find someone that you respect enough, that you love enough, that you will be accountable, because you don't want to let them down. Sometimes we'll let ourselves down, but sometimes we won't want to let somebody else down.
I love that. That is so good, Amy, to find an accountability partner. And so that
Mhm.
goes with all aspects of your life, whatever you're dealing
Mhm.
with, whether it's an issue with your marriage or, for the single gals, to be accountable for your time and what you're doing. I love that. That is so
Yeah,
good.
so
So,
important.
yeah, so Amy, how do you balance it all? I mean, you do so many different things. You like I said, you're a business owner, you are a mom, a wife, you mentor, you're a speaker, a motivator. How do you balance everything without being so stressed out? That's
I
what
go
I
to
always want to know this.
Well, I do get stressed out, so I got to be honest there. I do get stressed out, um, and I also have to find things that I enjoy in my life. So I am a spa girl. A lot of people know that about me. So if I have a big project or a big, like for example, when Refresh was coming up, when you have a big goal, it can get very intense at the end, right? So a lot of times in life in general, we are on a we're kind of walking or jogging, right? But there's seasons where we have to sprint at a goal. So if there's times that I have to sprint, I'm going to schedule a spa day for myself or a little weekend getaway, something that I have something to look forward to. That's just how I'm wired that I know is going to work. So I can get really intense and go really hard for a short amount of time. You cannot go like that forever. And I know that from personal experience because I burned out when I was just trying to do that. And when I didn't have that balance, there's just only so long and so hard that you can go. And the sad thing is, Harriet, we live in a world that our culture is telling you that you should go 24/7, that you should push towards exhaustion. And this is where I believe if you don't start with those priorities, you will get out of whack. You'll get out of alignment. You'll need an adjustment. And so it's like, what are those adjustments? So for me, one of the things where I feel like I'm most on balance is when I'm honoring my schedule. So many times people think like, oh, I want the flexibility. I don't want to be controlled. But I have
Right.
found that when you have a controlled schedule, it's when you are free. It's when you actually are balanced because you can schedule balance. And I remember again, another someone who was pouring into me. I believe in mentoring others, but I gotta get mentored too. And they said, because I can be intense towards a goal, I can go really hard. And we talked about how I needed to schedule fun. And I know that can sound crazy, but for someone who's very driven or very, you have to sometimes schedule those things that maybe other people are doing a lot of. Like maybe some people aren't reaching goals, but for those of you watching that are goal crushers and that want to do great things, sometimes you have to be more intentional about scheduling those. So we already talked about, I have a date night. I also have family time. And when we have the family time, I put my phone away, and that's hard sometimes, but I've had to learn it's so much more freeing because one of my priorities is to be present. And I remember I was driving with my kids one day, and the girls, I was taking them to dance. And you know how I was on this road where there's a lot of stoplights, right? And I was just trying to get in this one text. You know what I'm saying? Y'all know how it is. Like
Right.
sometimes it's like, I just got to get this one text in. And I was trying to text. And I remember they were, talking to me like, how dare they? My kids talking to me. They're in the back seat. And I just kept going. I just was short with them, and I was getting irritated that here my kids were just trying to talk to me. And I almost started going down that, like, being that mom, that short tempered mom that I did not want to be. And again, gratefully in that moment, I remembered my priority. And I would not have been in that moment, y'all, had I not been reading my journal every day, reminding myself of what my priorities were. But my goal was to be a joy-filled, present, fun, loving mom, not a short-tempered, yelling, fresh, right? So it was like, because I had those goals, I was able to bring myself back to that. So I think you guys, I don't really like to say balance as much as I like harmony. So I would say figure out what works for you. What works for me to have it is I will pack a lot in Monday through Wednesday. I'll try to get in as much work stuff Monday through Wednesday. And then Thursday, I have a small group that comes to my home every morning. So I'm leading in that capacity where I have a group of women, and I teach leadership, biblical leadership, and we grow, but that also is filling me up as well. And then, Friday again, that's date night or Saturday night, date night, depending on the football schedule now, we change
Yeah.
it. We have that family time there. And then on Sunday is rest time. And I know, we read that book about rest. Rest is not just on Sunday. It's finding those little moments. So I would say the old Amy, and this is just something recent, probably just in the last year that I've really been intentional with, is changing, packing from this to this to this. So I would be careful, you guys, and I'm working on this right now, but create more margin. Ask yourself, how can I create more margin in my life? And so what margin doesn't look like is what I used to do, where I would have a group training and then I would have not even 5 minutes, but I would schedule it from 4 to 5. And at 5, I had to leave to take my daughter to cheer. Like that was it. That's what I was doing. And so that was causing me stress because what if it went over 5 minutes and she's stressed, or we're worried about being late, or someone's sharing something and I don't want to cut them off. So now I've created the margin. And one of the things, I'll do is I'll go, make a cup of tea and I'll go look outside. Sometimes we work hard for things and don't appreciate them.
That
Or
is
take the
so true. I
right.
love that. And just taking that extra time, Gosh, Amy,
Mhm.
our time is gone for the day. I'm like looking at the clock and I'm like, oh my gosh. Well, I want to make sure that you come back again, first of all. Thank
Yeah.
you for being our guest. Come back. Asking everybody to go to Amy's websites, check her out, check out her mentorship. She's an amazing speaker. If you're having a conference, definitely call her, ask her to come and speak at your conference. It definitely will be blessed. And just check her out on all the her social media as well. So thank you again for joining us.
Harriet, can I say one other thing? Because I forgot to say this earlier when you asked me something. So I just want to give them a takeaway, something practical that they could work on. Is that okay? Do we have any time to do that?
Our time is gone,
Oh, it's
but
not. Okay.
it is gone. But will you come back? We'll
Of
do a part
course.
two.
We'll
Let's
do
do
a
a
part
part two.
two. There we go. We'll do a part two because there's a lot to unpack. Good.
Okay, great. Thank you so much again, Amy. And thank you all for tuning in to Conversations with Dr. Harry and our special guest, Amy Allgood. Remember, today only happens once, so make it amazing. See you next time.